Hey, welcome to Beyond Boston. I'm Chris Faraone.
I'm Jason Pramus.
And this is kind of our best of episode?
Yeah, the best of show, best of Beyond Boston.
Yeah, and we work every day, 7 days a week, but we're technically on vacation, hence the
relaxed look that you see.
I have shorts on, I don't know if you can see it. Obviously, we are two of dozens, literally dozens of people who have worked on the show in the past year, and so, everyone just is kind of chilling this month, but we really did do a whole lot. We covered a lot of ground in our first, 11 episodes?
Yep.
Jason always corrects me if I say 9 or 10.
I shot though.
No, that's cool. It's good to know. It's good to keep tally. So we really did cover a lot of ground, and we're going to go over that. We're going to go through some of our great interviews, some of the amazing segments that contributors from multiple stations put out. But I don't know, should we just tell them what Beyond Boston is about? Or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're a news digest. What else? What else do we do?
Well, we work with a whole bunch of different community access stations across Massachusetts, mostly in the greater Boston area, hence the title, Beyond Boston.
Right.
And, we had basically found out that there are all these amazing resources, these community centers, these television stations, and they're being used, but they aren't really connecting with each other as much as they should.
Right, and we wanted to really, so we're urban reporters, we cover, the big city, as big as it is anyway, and we thought it's really important for folks in the suburbs who don't always hear what's going on in the city, aside from like the ambulance chasing coverage they might see on, we won't name any stations, but the big TV stations, that there might be more going on in the city that they should hear about. So we've covered a bunch of issues, right, in the last year that we think are of interest to both groups, and we're trying to bring them closer together by doing it.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I'm certainly going to leave somebody out, but let's try to name check some of the people. So we're here, of course, filming at
CCTV,
Cambridge Community Television, CCTV, and so every episode, pretty much, we move from station to station. Like I said, we're kind of tying these communities together as much as possible. So who else? Malden Access Television, MATV. Work with them.
Brookline Interactive Group, big, right?
Big, love that name.
Somerville Media Center, right? Which they changed their name from SCATV. Yeah, I mean the overall center they've explained. Watertown, I forget what their acronym is. Anybody remember?
Watertown. You can say
WATV.
This is all friends here.
I mean, we have
WATV in Watertown.
We have folks from CCTV here.
Yeah.
And
come on, who are really well, Lowell has been
Telecommunications Collective.
They've been running a lot of stuff, and it's really, it's really this thing. So we put the programs out there. They're about a half hour every month. They feature, like Jason said, they're a digest, so they feature based around a topic, sometimes loosely, but mostly specifically, and we'll get into that. And then, we kind of take a segment from all these different stations, people contribute them, and they make for these unbelievable packages. And, literally more than a dozen outlets have run them. So
dozens have run them.
Dozens have. So even some that haven't contributed yet, but hopefully will in the future, they're already up and they're running some of them. And the feedback's been fantastic. So what have been some that really resonated with you?
Well, I mean, we've done a number of issues. We try to do a different issue every time. Some we've done twice, like immigration, I think we ultimately did twice. We did transportation essentially twice, right? We've done cannabis, right?
Well, we did for the cannabis we did a big episode in November, I think it was, leading up to the November election, about all the ballot measures. Massachusetts had a lot that we're actually getting national attention, cannabis and charter schools. So we kind of melted that into one. With immigration, we've been able to really dial in on some specific issues. So one of the shows, one of my favorites for sure, that we filmed at in Somerville was about sanctuary cities, and we had a great guest on from
Amy Grunder from the Mass Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition.
Mira, and it was really, I got to be honest, like really, I read all the mainstream papers every day. I'm a reporter, I have to. Unfortunately, but the detail really it was an unbelievable interview. And that so really not just covering immigration as a whole, but really being able to talk to people, and then of course a lot of these segments are right there in the community. They're as close to the ground as it gets. Jason and I are reporters more at the city level, and we're always preaching engagement. You really need to have the reporting in the community, and working with these community access stations through the Boston Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. It's really like getting right there. I mean, the reporters often are literally people who are civically engaged in their community. So we couldn't ask for anything more.
So, I mean, we really had a great time this first year, and now we're looking forward to the second year. And so this fall, people can expect us to zero in on the elections. I mean, that's going to be time to talk about that. And then we have a number of other shows planned, including some topics we haven't touched on before, like even like agriculture, I think we were talking about. So, you know, if anybody has show ideas or just wants to talk to us, we have a YouTube channel called Beyond Boston. And where could they email us? We don't actually have a Beyond Boston email yet.
Well, info@binjonline.org, BINJ online.org. But you know, we're easy to find. Like I said, I don't know. Sometimes, you know, you're watching the regular news and they'll give a survey. They don't really care what you say to that survey. We really care. We really are taking suggestions on shows, and as we reach farther beyond Boston, literally, and do shows on things like agriculture, we want to do some on cannabis agriculture in particular. But you know, really, we want ideas.
Yeah.
Bring them to us. We mean it.
We are starting a website, beyondboston.org. We just haven't put it up yet, so just stay tuned.
Yeah, we managed to produce 12 television shows, you know, before the website, but it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all about momentum. And the truth is, we're actually reaching a lot of people through these community stations that we don't reach through the print mediums or even online mediums that we use a lot. So, you know, it's really about showing, you know, when we do these episodes, it connects, you know, people and ideas in all these communities. And it's, you know, these are fake walls between Malden and Somerville and Cambridge. They're not real walls. You can walk right down the street. There's no force field. So the same issues affect us all, whether it's our you know, water and gas lines that literally tie city to city and municipality to municipality, or something more conceptual or ideological. You know, we've done stuff on bicycles. You know, these bike trails that literally connect through different towns. So yeah, that's what it's all about. We've been amazed, and this is not a negative thing, but we've been amazed to see how little people often realize how much that, wow, the same thing is going on at that city hall right there. So the more we can facilitate that kind of communication, the better. So year 2 is going to be awesome. So thanks for watching. Tell your friends, and thanks to everybody who's been working on the show. It's been really, really great experience. Thanks. Cool. Yeah.
Saturday, January 21st, 2017, the day after the inauguration.
The women just keep coming, more and more and more.
I am here for the people, all the people.
To support our fellow women in making sure that all of our rights are protected.
I'm here today to show my support and to publicize how I feel about women's rights and equality for all.
We're lucky, and we're in a country that we can do this in a peaceful way, and we're gonna exercise that right.
Bearing witness is an important piece of civil action.
I feel like the real patriots are here today, that we're here trying to save America. So why are you here today, sir?
Support women's rights.
And what does that matter to you?
Women are important. I believe in what women believe in.
I trust women. There's no other place in the world I'd rather be than right here with all the people who I voted with, not for Trump, for Hillary Clinton, and just for sanity and humanity and dignity. I can't believe the alternate reality that has dropped upon the United States, and I'm here to resist that and to be with my people and be strengthened.
I am here because I have to be here. I have no choice. My life is political. As an African American woman, as someone who needs health care, and someone who believes in women's rights, black rights, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual people's rights, he is going to eradicate all of that. And I will not stand for it. And so
Let's face it, we all make jokes about lawyers. But as anyone who's ever needed one knows, there are also many ethical attorneys you can count on. Amy Grunder, a lawyer with MIRA, the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, is one of them. We asked Amy to come on Beyond Boston and speak about some policy updates, as well as her organization's efforts on the ground and with community building. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chris. Sanctuary city is not a legal term, it's a political term. So when it's used by faith-based communities, for example, they're talking about sanctuary policies, which might include anything from offering support to families targeted to deportation, the family members, or putting funds together to assist people in deportation proceedings, all the way up to offering a place to live for people who are targeted, who are being sought by ICE, which is at the other end of the spectrum, which can include civil disobedience. So that's where the sanctuary city term comes from. It comes from a faith-based movement in the 1980s.
Now, how do the best of those policies kind of jibe with the work that MIRA does, and how do they enforce the same things, and how do they help those communities, which are, I presume, communities that you're helping?
Well, the idea is you don't want local police to be involved in immigration enforcement, because when police are involved in immigration enforcement, it means that people in immigrant communities are unwilling to come forward to report crimes. If they're victims of crimes, if they're witnesses to crimes, they're unwilling to assist in police investigations. And there's already there's research out there. A study just came out recently saying that communities that have these policies in place are actually safer than comparable communities that don't.
Imagine that.
So imagine that. So the idea.
Tell me, what is the purpose of this festival?
It's actually, we are hoping at the end of the day that people, they change the image, that a lot of media, they use it wrong, and I hope that they can get the positive.
This idea came first with everything that is happening after all these terrorism attacks, and people they do not know better about Muslims because they just assume that they're all terrorists. And so we discussed among us, and we're like, we need to do something. We need to show to the people that we are just as human as everyone else. We condemn actually all these attacks, and we feel sad for any misjustice or any terrorism happening either in the name of the religion or by any other name. And we wanted to show to our community that we love so much and that we serve as teachers, as lawyers, as doctors. We want to show them that what we're doing here, we want them to share with us our culture. We want them to know who we are.
They brought it in, told us she's the #1 pick. You got the job, but you got it as an outfit. It's the position that you put me in.
And I also noticed you had on the program doing a selfie with a hijab.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to be on stage, but on one of our booths, we have a try a hijab on, and so a head covering, and then you kind of do a selfie just as a memory, to add a little spice to it. And yeah, it's kind of the point. So I've had friends in elementary school and middle school that saw me, for example, wrap it on in the bathroom. They're like, "That's it? All you have to do is literally drape the cloth over your head." And so it's kind of just to show you how simple it is, and it's not the actual covering. That's just it's symbol for many more deeper meanings of modesty and respect and the way we carry ourselves.
Our guest this month is Barbara Mataloni, the president of the Massachusetts Teachers Association. Representing more than 100,000 teachers and instructors statewide, the MTA is a significant force, though one that is often sideswiped and maligned in the media, despite the fact that its members teach and care for our children.
Public education should be the center of our fight, not only against the Trump administration, but certainly here in Massachusetts against the Baker and Secretary Pizer administration. There's a lot to be said for alliances in terms of ideology between Betsy DeVos, the National Secretary of Education, and our Secretary Pizer. Both are interested in privatizing. Both maintain sort of an austerity mindset that says do more with less. And both have been instrumental in undermining public education and opportunities, places where they've had an opportunity to do so. Here in Massachusetts, it's the high-stake testing that they use, that we're in the middle of testing season right now here in Massachusetts, and I can't tell you how many letters I'm getting, emails from educators and from parents who really say we have to stop this. We've gone down a rabbit hole with the testing. I don't know if people who aren't in schools understand how problematic it is and the way it's being used to prove that our schools are failing. But we also are expected to function under these austerity budgets where more and more we're supposed to do more with less. And there hasn't been a commitment from the governor and enough from the State House to say we're going to fully fund our public schools. The key is that when people think about their public school, they actually, I think, do think of it in terms of like sort of the foundation of democracy. Like the school committee is elected officials. The ideal of a public school is we bring all of our children together, all of our young people together, with a very specific mission that they're going to learn how to live in a world that's a democratic space. What privatization is one of the major things it does is it removes the elected school committee from the picture. You get appointed boards of directors or self-appointed or appointed by the commissioner. So the idea of having elected officials disappears. And then you have private interests coming in and making decisions about curriculum and about hiring and firing where there's no more public input. And there's opportunities in that, even in a nonprofit, for profit. So that public education is not supposed to be an institution for profit. It's supposed to be an institution of the common good. People are coming in and finding ways to profit from it, whether that's through charter schools, through these sort of education consulting companies, or testing, which is a huge profit industry. And now what's coming, personalized learning, with education being delivered through a computer, and we don't even need educators at that point. We just need good software, apparently.
I lived an entire lifetime looking at things through this foggy lens of, you're not good enough. You can't do that. You're not the kind of person who can do that. Other people do that stuff, not you. You drink, and you wallow in your own sadness and self-pity. A never-ending cycle that I became used to, and I thought was just never going to end until I died young. My real struggles with alcoholism began in my late teens, I would say, even though I had been drinking since a very young age, about 11 years old.
My alcoholism got to the point where it was starting to impact my life and my family's life, and it had transitioned from heavy drinking to alcoholism. June 17th, I believe it was, 2014, I went into detox rehab for the first time. It hasn't been a smooth, ideal road in terms of recovery, but that was my date for really taking hold of it and dealing with it.
It really didn't become a serious journey in recovery for me until I was in my 30s. That's when I realized that I wanted to do this for myself. There were reasons that I wanted to live and not have alcohol bog down the rest of my life.
You're going to meetings every day, you got a sponsor, you've got all the things that are laid out that you're supposed to be doing, but you picked up again. And that sort of hit home that it's not just one program that's going to work for me.
My experience with previous rehabilitation programs was a struggle for me. I was not invested. I just kind of yesed and nodded my head. When I found Prana, it was unlike any other program, and I had done everything.
The yoga classes were taught by a volunteer who was in recovery, and so the yoga was a recovery-based sort of stretching and balancing, and it wasn't a power workout yoga.
When I showed up, I didn't have an inkling of this is going to be something for me.
Meditation was new to me. My mind was always racing. I would always have a hard time sitting still.
I knew nothing except there was yoga involved, and I laughed.
Yoga, to me, was something that soccer moms did, and I never saw it for what it really is in terms of a spiritual, being aware of yourself and sort of your surroundings, connecting with yourself.
When I actually walked in the door, it was just click, instant connection. I was comfortable with everybody. I trusted everybody, and they allowed me to be honest about myself.
I'd heard about it and I was familiar with what was happening, but from your level, what you were seeing was something all different altogether. So, what is that background? What did it look like?
I grew up in Charlestown, as you know, my background and stuff. And the neighborhood always had drugs and crime, and it's just one of those, seedy pots, the white collar, like blue collared, like white tough Irish neighborhoods, and heroin was always frowned upon as a kid. Like for me, like people didn't do heroin. It was like people in the bums in the park, old vets did it. It was a very low scale drug. You know, people did cocaine, people did their amounts of drugs, but it was never like anything where it was a crisis and you would hear of someone overdosing or dying. Very rare, anything of that sort ever, except for like maybe Crazy Town, he's smoking angel dust and doing something horrible. You know, in my late adolescence, you know, dibbling and dabbling with like rave drugs, and where I went with like my life of like, you know, crime and being a knucklehead, I watched a shift of, you know, this pill come in, OxyContin at the time, and just, I don't think anybody else realized what maybe the way I was seeing it so fast, because we were doing E and we were doing all this like stuff and having fun, but I'd watched this one pill come in and I just watched everybody start doing it. So like the rave crowd, it's like, yeah, ravers do Molly, ravers do Special K, and you know, hippies smoke weed. You know, everyone. But this thing was something that I seen go from like the streets to like someone's mother. Like people that just don't do drugs were doing drugs, and then not only were they doing drugs, but they were doing horrible things to get the drug, and they were dying. And it happened so fast, where I had to sit back sometimes and look at the big picture and be like, what is going on here?
What year do you really peg as that balloon? Where it started
2001 is when I noticed it, for sure. That's when I seen, you see, I was incarcerated for other stuff, and that's when I seen the shift was actually in jail, is when the typical inmate and the inmate that was in jail for whatever they were doing now became, that inmate slowly like weeded itself out, like someone like myself, and became opiate addicts, opiate-related crime, you know what I mean? And people come in, I'd never before seen people sick. I've never seen someone, you know, oh, I didn't, you know, do ecstasy this weekend, I didn't smoke weed, I'm dying on the floor. And I would, you know, all these people would be quarantined in amount of cells and areas, you know, puking on themselves. And so I seen this stuff as like, you know, almost like a horror at that point.
Now, at the same time, you're not seeing this reflected in the media. People aren't really talking about it outside of your circles. You wanted to make a movie, and you know, I wish we could talk all day about the making of Oxymorons. I know it was an adventure in and of itself, but what has been the impact of that, and what was the intention when people see that film?
I mean, when I made Oxymorons, it was, you know, it was part of me always wanted to live my dream as a filmmaker and that stuff, and the things in life that deter you from, you know, living your dream, which segues many people to drugs, because it's the give-up point. It's like, I'm just going to work a 9 to 5, I'm not going to follow and do what I always wanted to do as a kid, and I'm going to come home and I'm going to get high, or I'm going to drink, but whatever the vice is, you know what I mean? But opiates, more than anything, destroyed people, you know, took away more than handfuls of people that I love, but not just like, oh, I know this dude, he was my family members, real close friends, and I said, there's nobody touching this, like there's nobody talking about this, so this needs to be the first thing I step up to the plate with and make a movie about gritty indie, you know, my original idea to do it with a handy cam, run around the projects, that grew into something much bigger, obviously, and I got the message out, and, you know, I got, you know, documentary TV stations, and it was a big topic, and there was almost a point where we thought this might be making a huge difference.
We need to stand side by side, all of us. That has never been more important than now. And it's been proven time and time again. When we stand together, we have been known to do great things. This is the time. So tonight, before we all go to bed, pray, cry, shout, be angry, be sad. Think of those you love, the ones who need us. Remember we fight for them. Remember that they count on us. Remember that we must not be pushed aside, and that we won't allow others to be pushed, to be thrown away. Take a deep breath. We may be sad today, but tomorrow we rise.
I've been involved with Spare Change from the very beginning. It was an idea from two men by the name of Tim Harris and Tim Hobson, and Tim Hobson got me involved right at the beginning when the idea was first fresh. And honestly, when Tim Hobson first told me about the concept of a newspaper done by homeless people, I thought he was crazy. Because we were all homeless at the time, and I figured, yeah, okay, there's no way we're going to be able to do this. But the thing that made me and the rest of us decide that this is something we wanted to do. Well, two reasons actually. One, we were caught up in a system that for us didn't really do much. I mean, homeless agencies don't really do what they say they're going to do. They're supposed to take you in, provide you with everything you need, and including resources, and then get you housing and everything that it takes to keep that. And that wasn't happening with us. So the other thing was that when we decided, we were talking to homeless providers and homeless advocates about this idea of a newspaper, they were saying to us, well, no, I think you guys have more things to worry about, more important things to worry about than just that. And they weren't telling us because they were actually concerned that we were wasting our time. They were telling us because they thought we weren't smart enough to do it. And so we went ahead and we did it. And 25 years later, Spare Change is alive and well. It worked. It's helped thousands of people.
It's an institution.
Yeah, so.
What is, then, now, what is missing? Formerly homeless population, when people look at what's going on in the media, regular mainstream media, even alternative media, what's missing? What is the voice that's missing? How can you describe that?
Compassion, simple as that. Compassion and education. People don't know enough about homelessness to begin with. The general public does not know what its causes are, what contributes and what keeps a person out on the streets for 15, 20 years. People have no idea about that. The other thing is simple compassion. The media either pities us, which is something I personally do not like, or they demonize us. It's like, for example, this is the holiday season, so we're all going to get the candid shots of politicians serving food in soup kitchens. Oh, look at that, they're serving those poor people. You can't stand that. Nobody wants to be pitied.
In Brookline, the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted to fire 2 Brookline police officers after they had failed to return to work following their claims of racial discrimination from fellow police within their department. Prior to the vote, the Selectmen heard statements from the legal counsels representing the officers Prentice Pilot and Estefanos Zerari Misgun, as well as the counsel from the town to explain the findings of their investigation.
It is indeed unfortunate for the employees in the town that in the various instances there was no evidence to corroborate the employee's version or the version of the accused.
Commotion during the meeting started when the crowd began to get restless for a chance to voice their own opinions before the board made their final decision.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Chair, just to clarify, so are you allowing the community to speak prior to your vote?
No.
We have never been
We-
allowed not the first time, the second time, the third time. We keep showing up, we keep taking off work.
You know what?
You're
I'm
afraid.
tired.
Give the floor to Gerald Alston. Ex-Brookline firefighter Gerald Alston, the defendant of a surprisingly similar case that took place in Brookline last October, was among the audience members that persisted to make their voice heard.
Understand something. You are all human beings. You all have to understand something.
The Board of Selectmen and its
What you
capacity
did
as
to me,
appointing authority
you're doing
for
to
the
these police officers.
Stop it.
In spite of Alston and others' protests to the board, the selectmen went ahead and voted to fire the officers, despite the crowd's focus away from their agenda.
What did you vote? We
We voted aye. Each one of us voted aye on the motion.
You really do not deserve to be where you sit down representing the citizens.
It was kind of like amazing the way they snuck that in there while the first person had come to the microphone. But that was a decision that they had already made.
Over 100 residents and attendees showed up to attend the hearing, and many said they blamed the Board of Selectmen for mishandling the case, including the Brookline Police Chief Daniel C. O'Leary.
I'm not happy with the way it was portrayed up here today.
This is not Brookline, Massachusetts. This is Brookline, Syria. This is Brookline, Russia.
I just feel very sad about it, and I have to believe that there was another way to handle this.